Hi everybody. In 2011, a company that just started with 25 students went on to become one of the most valued startups in Indian history in just 10 years. By 2021, not just millions, but hundreds of millions of students were using the resources. The greatest star in the country was endorsing them, and within no time, it became an epitome of the booming edtech industry of India. This company, as we all know, is BYJU'S.
The coronavirus pandemic has disrupted education across the world.
Some families are struggling to adjust as the coronavirus crisis grows.
कोरोना काल में ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन प्लेटफॉर्म बायजूस ने नई बुलंदियां हासिल.
Over the last so many years, we are touching 150 million students across the world.
Our lead story tonight is about BYJU'S, one of India's most celebrated unicorns. Today, it is a startup engulfed in a crisis.
BYJU'S continue to be in focus a month after firm's investor Infosys resigned from BYJU'S board.
BYJU'S is under the radar for alleged violation of India's foreign exchange laws.
In the last 2 years, BYJU'S has seen a dramatic downturn. The press has gone crazy about their functioning, the company is dealing with investor troubles, an auditor and multiple board members have left, they've laid off thousands of employees, and most importantly, they've been bleeding with thousands of crores in losses.
BYJU'S posted a loss of $327 million.
The company saw a loss of over 4,500 crore rupees. The losses have gone up more than 15 times to come in at 4,564 crores.
And during this time, their valuation has dropped from $22 billion in 2022 to below $3 billion today. This is because BYJU'S took some bold steps that did not pay off as much as expected. So if you're a business leader, regardless of the domain you belong to, listen to this case study very carefully, because the lessons from this case study will help you escape a miserable failure. So in this episode today, let's do a deep dive and try to understand what is the story of BYJU'S, what are the challenges that they are facing, and what are the lessons that we need to extract from the operations of this giant edtech company. But before we move on, I have an important message about health insurance for all of you. So listen to this very carefully, guys. People, in this big bad world, the insurance industry is designed to make a fool out of you. And there is nothing more painful than paying your premiums on time only to realize that when you actually meet with an accident, your insurance company does not even cover half of your expenses. Only to realize that your insurance company has fooled you by using terms and conditions that nobody can understand. And the worst part is, by the time you realize you have the wrong health insurance, it's already too late. So the burning question is, whom can you trust for honest, transparent and unbiased advice? Well, thankfully, Ditto is here to help you out. Ditto has the most trustworthy insurance advisory team that will help you pick the best health insurance for free. Yes, you heard that right. They do it without charging you a single penny. And the best part is that the Ditto team doesn't just stop with sales, they will also help you with everything from documentation to even claim settlement. And I am endorsing Ditto not just because they sponsored this episode, but also because my own family members have taken their advice and it was smooth and amazing. So even if you already have health insurance or if you want to buy health insurance, please spend a few minutes time and have a call with a Ditto advisor. These few minutes will save you tons of money, hassle, and most importantly, a ton of stress during claim settlement. So use the link below and schedule a call with Ditto today and stay stress-free regarding your health insurance. And if you're worried about spam calls, don't worry. Ditto executives will never call you without your consent. And now, on with the episode. This is a story that dates back to 2011 when a popular teacher named Ravindran and his wife Divya started BYJU'S with the goal of preparing content for school students and also wanted to cater to the test preparation market. Then in 2015 they launched their learning app, and in 2016 the company claimed that its app was downloaded more than 5.5 million times in the last 1 year, out of which 250,000 consumers were paid annual subscribers. And from there on, their user base kept on exploding. By 2019, they had 40 million users. By 2021, they had 80 million users. And today, they have around 150 million users. During the same time, their revenue had grown from 110 crores in 2016 to 500 crores in 2018 to 2,428 crores in 2021. And as per the last audit, it stood at 3,569 crores in 2022. This revenue came from three sources: sale of tablet and SD cards, sale of reference books, and tuition and service fee. During this time, the valuation of BYJU'S skyrocketed to hit $22 billion. and BYJU'S became a benchmark for all edtech companies to follow.
BYJU'S valued at over $22 billion in October 2022.
India's most valued startup at $22 billion.
The golden-eyed boy of the Unicorn Club.
CEO BYJU'S Ravindran said in a statement, and I quote, BYJU'S is now at that sweet spot of its growth story where the unit economics and the economies of scale both are in its favor.
But you know what, guys? While on one side they were killing it with thousands of crores in revenue, on the other side their losses also shot up from 49 crores in 2016 to 249 crores in 2020, and then it shot up by 18x to touch 4,588 crores in 2021. As per the most recent filings, their FY22 losses are 2,253 crores. So the question is, how did this company incur such heavy losses? Well, the first and the most obvious reason of all was their marketing budget. Their advertising and promotional expenses was their single largest cost in FY21. And if you see this table, business promotion expenses alone accounted for 32% of their total expenses. From title sponsorships in IPL to the FIFA World Cup, from bringing Shah Rukh Khan as its brand ambassador to even getting Lionel Messi, it was spending more on advertising than its own employees and operation. In fact, in 2021, while they spent 2,250.94 crores in marketing, their revenue itself was 2,428.3 crores. Now, is this bad? Well, not really, because every company has its own way of functioning. But is the revenue to marketing expense ratio risky? Absolutely yes. And as we move ahead, you will see how this snowballed into a catastrophe for the company. This is where their second challenge came in, which was their sales practice.
Some parents accused BYJU'S marketing personnel of instilling fear in them about their children's future in this highly competitive world. These tactics eroded trust and created a negative perception of the company.
One of India's most celebrated unicorns. Today, it is a startup engulfed in a crisis.
Most egregious act was when customers who bought courses on loan requested cancellations and refunds.
According to Hindu Frontline, sales associates were asked to find leads everywhere. They would visit schools, malls and even temples to persuade people to sign up. This also included the low-income workers, from market sellers to even rickshaw drivers. According to restoftheworld.org, even at a local chai stall, a salesman would ask the seller if he had children and if he wanted them to have a better education and a better life. If yes, then he must sign up for BYJU'S. And once users installed the app, they were asked to sign up for a 15-day free trial using a mobile number. And once BYJU'S had this mobile number, their sales teams would consistently follow up and they would persuade the parents to buy a subscription. Now again, is following up a problem? Not at all. But furthermore, according to Hindu Frontline, employees revealed that BYJU'S put them under immense pressure to make their weekly sales targets of 1 lakh rupees, or else they would be fired. As a result, according to Hindu Frontline, they made misleading statements to parents and frightened them into believing that their children would fail if they didn't purchase a BYJU'S course, or they would push them to buy a multi-year package. Now the question over here is, even if the salesman was very pushy, when the courses cost as high as 1.35 lakhs for JEE Prep, how could people with low incomes afford these courses? Well, as it turns out, many people were buying this course by taking out a loan. Yes, you heard that right. People were buying these courses by taking out a loan. An investigation by Ken analyzed 110 consumer complaints, and they found that 54 of these people were unaware that they were being signed up for loans when they signed up for subscriptions. And the problem was that the average ticket size of these purchases was 66,000 rupees, and they have to pay interest if they pay in parts. Now the question over here is, how did this lending happen so easily? Because taking out a loan in India is a very big hassle, especially if you have less income, right? Then how did these people with less income end up getting loans so easily? Well, this is where BYJU'S lending partnerships came in. BYJU'S used something called the first loss and deposit guarantee strategy. In simple words, this is an arrangement between a third party and a financial institution, whereby the third party guarantees to compensate the lender if the borrower defaults. In this case, BYJU'S acted as a guarantor for its customers who borrowed from its financing partners. So if the customer defaults, then BYJU'S would be liable to make the loan repayments. This is the reason why the financing partners were very easily able to lend money to people even with low incomes. This is the second challenge that the company faced, where some desperate salesmen got over pushy, and eventually, because of first loss deposit guarantee, people started taking up loans to buy these courses. But regardless of that, from the business standpoint, when multiple such cases of forced sales, pushy follow-ups and loan stories came up, many customers of BYJU'S started losing trust in the brand. So the second challenge was loss of reputation and trust because of their sales methodology. Now, until this point, this story could still be discarded as the story of a few handful of customers. So for $1 billion company, a few bad customers are not a big deal at all. But this is where things got really crazy with their accounting practices.
The startup which lived the dream and is now in the dumps. The CEO, BYJU Ravindran, is being blamed for mismanaging the firm's growth. The once high-flying startup has failed to file its financial accounts on time. Investors have accused BYJU'S of hiding $500 million,
which has been troubled by mass layoffs, mounting losses, valuation cuts, and several other issues.
There are allegations of foreign exchange violations. BYJU'S is being probed for this.
How BYJU'S has not paid attention to business fundamentals in its growth journey.
You see, in accounting, there is a very simple concept of revenue recognition, and this is called as accrual principle. And this principle states 3 key points. Number 1, revenues are to be recognized when they are earned and not when they are received. For example, if thinkschool sells a course to a student on credit in 2021 and doesn't receive payment until 2022, then the revenue would still be recorded in 2021 when the sale was made. Similarly, if the student pays 40,000 rupees for a 2-year course in 2021, with each year of the course costing 20,000 rupees, the revenue must be recorded as 20,000 rupees for 2021, and the rest of the 20,000 rupees must be recorded as revenue for the year 2022. Similarly, if a business received a utility bill in 2021 but paid it in 2022, the expense would be recorded in 2021 when the service was used and not in 2022. But as it turns out, according to Money Control, BYJU'S did not record revenues like this. Since BYJU'S takes the fees of 2-year or 3-year courses in the first year itself, it would record it as revenue of that year itself instead of splitting it in 2 to 3 years. So it's like if a customer paid 60,000 rupees for a 3-year course in 2021 to thinkschool, then the entire 60,000 rupees was recorded in 2021 itself. Now, what is the problem with this practice? When the investor looks at the balance sheet, it inflates the revenue and makes it look like BYJU'S is scaling up exponentially. This is the reason why Deloitte asked them to defer 40% of its revenue that it recorded in 2021 to both 2022 and 2023. And because of this, the company had to record significant losses in 2021. On top of that, when the COVID lockdown ended, while many students suddenly chose to leave the course and went back to offline classes, many left due to negative reviews and publicity. This is when BYJU'S sales started going down. As you can see in this chart, BYJU'S revenue declined by 38% from 2020 to 2021 in India. But at the same time, their US business grew by 133% and in the Middle East, it grew by 103%. And guess what? While all this drama was going on, BYJU'S went on a shopping spree to acquire companies one after the other.
You've paid 2 times sales for White Hat Junior, their annual run rate being 150 million, and you've paid out cash of 300 million. Now, agreed, you have cash on the books.
India's edtech startup BYJU'S has acquired coaching center chain Akash. Do you know for how much? Close to $1 billion. $1 billion.
So in the past few years, BYJU'S went on to acquire companies like White Hat Junior, Akash Education Services, and 17 other companies. While White Hat Junior was acquired for $300 million, Epic was acquired for $500 million, and Akash was acquired for $950 million. So while they experienced substantial growth in user numbers, they also faced increasing expenses. On top of that, not all these companies were profitable. So along with users, they also got more losses from their acquired companies. This was the third challenge that the company was facing, which were the losses from acquired companies. Now, even here we can argue that BYJU'S could easily turn these companies into a profitable venture because of their distribution and scale. But you know what, guys? This is what brings us to another risk that BYJU'S took up, which is something called Term Loan B. And this is what made things very, very difficult for BYJU'S. To tell you about it, in 2021, the United States was offering loans at near 0 interest rates. If you remember, this is because they printed trillions of dollars, because of which the interest rates in the US touched rock bottom. And this was a very, very attractive offer for both startups and VCs. So with this attractive offer, BYJU'S took up $1.2 billion in loan. But you know what, guys? This loan wasn't just any loan, it was a Term Loan B. In simple words, it is a loan which requires small installments and is followed by a large bullet payment at the end. Now, the technical definition of term loan B is a little complicated, so let's understand this using a story. Let's say a company called X took a term loan B of $100 million. Let's say the interest rate is set at 5% per annum and the term loan is only for 6 years. For simplicity, let's also assume that the interest is calculated annually. So the payment structure of this loan will look like this. At the end of year 1, X will pay 1% of the principal, which is $1 million, plus 5% interest on this principal balance, which is 5% of $100 million, equivalent to $5 million. So the total repayment would be $6 million. At the end of year 2, X will again pay 1% on the principal, that is $1 million, plus 5% on the remaining principal balance, that is $100 million minus $1 million, which is $99 million. So 5% of $99 million gives us an interest of $4.95 million. So the total repayment for year 2 is $4.95 million plus $1 million equal to $5.95 million. This will go on till the last year, and this is when X will pay the company the entire remaining amount of $95 million in one shot and pay the interest of 5% on $95 million. This is how the transaction will be complete. So you see, the installments are small but are followed by a large bullet payment. Now, do you see the risk over here? Most of the principal payment is done at the end, and this increases the risk for the lender, because in between this time, if the borrower company goes bankrupt, then the lender will lose all the money. So the risk for the lenders is very, very high, right? This is why, to mitigate this risk, the lenders do 3 things. Number 1, they demand high rates of interest. Number 2, the banks sell these loans to institutional investors who are willing to take up such high risks. And finally, they attach some very stringent terms and conditions. In BYJU'S case, they were asked to get this loan rated by 2 credit agencies like Moody's or Fitch. They were asked to publish their audited 2021 financial results on time, and several such conditions were applied. But guess what? This is the timeline of the drama that followed. According to Economic Times, in November 2021, BYJU'S raised $1.2 billion of term loan B. In July 2022, BYJU'S said that it will announce its delayed audited financials. In August, the MCA itself sent BYJU'S a letter over a 17-month delay in filing results. And then finally in September, BYJU'S announced the results, where the investors saw that the losses had risen by 18 times to 4,588 crores. Meanwhile, they closed $250 million in financing from existing investors. Then in December 2022, the creditors sought an immediate term loan B part payment. This is when in March 2023, BYJU'S offered to pay a high interest on term loan B to renegotiate the debt financing. So then, the lender sought up to $200 million with higher interest from BYJU'S for restructuring. Again, parallelly, BYJU'S raised another 2,000 crores from Davidson Kempner. And then finally, the creditors pulled out of the negotiations to recast the term loan B. Then on 6th of June 2023, BYJU'S defaulted on the loan repayments and sued its creditors. Meanwhile, another thing that happened was the Russia-Ukraine war, and this pushed the interest rates of Western countries so high up that the base interest rate went from 0.2% to 5.85%. And this increase in interest rates increased the installment amounts for many companies that borrowed during low interest times. If you remember, this is exactly what happened with the Silicon Valley Bank. On top of that, if you look at this graph, as the interest payments were missed, the prices of this term loan B had dropped drastically from 99 cents on the dollar in 2022 to as low as 49 cents in September this year. All this brought back lenders to the negotiating table. And recently, BYJU'S came out with saying its term loan B would be repaid by March next year. But we can only wait and see what exactly happens. And as if this was not enough, their auditor Deloitte and 3 other board members resigned. BCCI has dragged them to court over sponsorship issues. They've been accused by the Enforcement Directorate of foreign exchange violations of over 9,000 crores, and they've also been struggling to pay their employees. This is the story of BYJU'S, where heavy marketing, accounting practices, sales methodology, fast-paced acquisition and term loan B together, they've put up a massive challenge in front of BYJU'S. So now what remains to be seen is how will BYJU'S come out of the situation and claim their position as the market leader in India. And this brings us to the last part of the episode, and that are the lessons that we need to learn from the challenges and operations of BYJU'S. Lesson number 1, marketing is a double-edged sword. On one side, while it may look like the primary instrument of revenue growth, if not used properly, it could bleed your company with losses. Lesson number 2. While good businesses focus on the speed of scale, great businesses focus on the uncompromised value and impact of their products while they scale. And lastly, Warren Buffett once said, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you will do things differently. In this case, we saw how things shaped up with BYJU'S, its investors and its customers due to its practices. This is the story of BYJU'S, and I just hope you learned something valuable from this case study. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.